Well, welcome back to the third day of our Innovation Summit. Certainly, the first 2 days has been extraordinary. Thoroughly enjoyed myself. Lots of great interaction, lots of inspiring speeches, and lots of opportunities to learn from each other. So today it's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker, visionary speaker, Dr. Mahmood Khan. Dr. Mahmood Khan is the Chief Executive Officer of Healthy Foundation, a first-of-its-kind nonprofit organization that will target grants and early-stage investment to incentivize health-span science across disciplines and borders for the benefit of all. Prior to joining Healthy, Dr. Khan served as Chief Executive Officer and board member of Life Biosciences, Inc., which focused on advancing scientific research and developing innovative new therapies to improve and extend healthy lives for everyone. And in this role as CEO, Dr. Khan provided strategic directions and operational oversight across Life Biosciences and its 6 daughter companies, pursuing his vision of a more efficient, effective drug development pathway that will drive innovation in science, technology, and life sciences that it advances. Now, Dr. Khan has an illustrious career. For example, before his role at Life Sciences, he was served as Vice Chair and Chief Scientific Officer of Global Research and Development at PepsiCo, a Fortune 50 company employing up to 250,000 employees across 22 brands. At PepsiCo, Dr. Khan played a pivotal role in company's global R&D efforts to create breakthrough innovations in food, beverages, and nutrition, including incorporation of healthier and more nutritious offerings across its portfolio. He also oversaw PepsiCo's global sustainability initiative, and he believed that business is inextricably linked to sustainability of the world we share. And prior to joining PepsiCo, he served as president of global R&D at Takeda Pharmaceuticals, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Now, with all that, he had a distinguished career as an academic. He was a faculty member in endocrinology at Mayo Clinic and Mayo School of Medicine, where he served as director of diabetes endocrinology and nutritional trials unit. He also spent 9 years in leading programs in diabetes endocrinology, metabolism, and nutrition for the Hennepin County Medical Center in Minneapolis. Dr. Khan earned his MD degree from the University of Liverpool Medical School, completed a fellowship in clinical endocrinology, Department of Medicine, University of Minnesota, Minneapolis. He's a fellow of the Royal College of Physicians in London and a fellow of the American College of Endocrinology, holds 2 honorary PhDs, and has exclusively featured numerous publications, including Fast Company's 100 Most Creative People in Business. Now you know why we chose him to be speaker. He's done it all. And I think for many of you innovators who aspire to innovate, to take whatever your background right now is, possibly academic, and to move into making a difference, he's the man to listen to. So Mahmood, welcome, and I look forward to hearing your speech.
Victor, thank you for that kind introduction. I think everybody should know my role model in life is actually Victor Zhao himself. So having been a board member of Life Biosciences, we've had a chance to work together for a decade and a half now. So I think I would take everything you just said about me with a pinch of salt. Let me touch a little bit, and Victor raised this question about innovation. And I always like to, when I teach the subject, I always start by saying, let's understand the difference between innovation and invention. Invention is something that we can come up with that has a potential solution to problems that exist out in society and the world. But not every invention, in fact, most inventions are not destined to become innovations. And innovation is when that invention actually changes a person's life. That person might be a consumer, maybe a patient, it may be a product, it may be a service, it may be a process. But until it actually gets into the marketplace and actually changes a person's life in one way or another, it's not going to be an innovation. And entrepreneurs spend the majority of their time thinking about how to take these inventions and actually make them into innovations. And that's what I'm going to touch on first. But before I go into that, a lot of people often ask me, how'd you go from being a practicing physician to a pharmaceutical executive, to a consumer goods company executive, and then to a biotech, and now a nonprofit? So having spanned that sort of spectrum, there are some common themes. One of which is, I don't care what your technology background is, your science background is, one thing is always common. You're going to be spending all of your career, one way or another, thinking about problems, sometimes simple, sometimes complex, and ultimately looking for solutions. And senior leaders that think about these problems think of systems and how to solve system-level problems, whether it was in my career thinking about one of the largest food and beverage companies in the world and how to think about the supply chain from seed to shelf, thinking about water sustainability, packaging, and the environment, or now, in my mind, perhaps second only to global warming, the biggest challenge facing humanity, which is age-related diseases and this growing large number of people that are getting older, and we have one of two choices. One choice is we do business as usual, resulting in a huge burden on disease, a huge burden of disease on society, increasing morbidity, and the financial and economic consequences of a pay-forward system that can no longer sustain. Simply stated, fewer and fewer younger people trying to take care of greater and greater numbers of older people with increasing disease burden, and that is not sustainable. The other alternative is what we're here about today, which is how can we bring the best minds from around the world at all stages in their career and get them to think about these problems collectively and with one vision in mind, which is how do we leverage the best? Not just science, but the whole spectrum. And I'll come back to that, because this is seminal to understanding this transition from invention to innovation. Large companies have a lot of strengths. They have resources. They have both financial and human and capital. They have systems and processes that have been developed over some decades, sometimes centuries, and so they're optimized. Those can sometimes be their challenges too, because of the rigidity. However, there's a lot to learn from large corporations in terms of discipline, in terms of expertise, and in terms of understanding the market. At the same time, biotech startups in any field, including biotech and entrepreneurs, bring this new vibrant energy that can be harnessed with new ideas that challenge historically that norm. And in my mind, innovation is going to happen not because of either or, because these two ecosystems come together and challenge each other to be different. And how do we think about this, and what are the thoughts to think about? Well, the first thing I want to say is, what's the problem? The problem we have to think about is that you have this series of great ideas, many of which will not work, and how do you now bring them to market? And bringing them to market is about thinking about the regulatory environment, thinking about the intellectual property that you have. Is it unique? Is it defensible? And can this solution be scaled? What is the go-to-market strategy, not only from indications, which is the first thing we think about, but how's it going to get in the end user's hands, and how's it going to work within the existing environment? So all of those are ultimately going to need to be thought about. Finally, the end patient and consumer, how are they going to use this as part of their lifestyle? I'm going to give you some examples in a second, but to do all of that, given the short time, I wanted to give a few cues. Number one, the most important commodity, you'll hear this all the time, is talent. Leaders spend most of their time identifying the best people who are going to help find the best solutions to come together and work together. Now, if you're going to be successful at that, then you have to think about dreams and visions. And I want to distinguish between the two. A dream is something that an individual leader, an individual inventor has. it does not become a vision. A vision is a dream that's shared by many. And if you can take that dream and get 10 people to share it, 100 people to share it, 1,000 people to share it, that dream now becomes a vision that's shared by everybody. And that's what leaders do. Leaders figure out how to take their dream and make it the vision of everybody, not just your employees. If you're really going to move the needle, you have to share this vision with your employees, with your colleagues, with people you have direct oversight, and all of the partner organizations that are part of this village that's going to happen. How are you going to get that to happen? The biggest thing that I've learned in my career to do that is you have to win people's hearts. It's not about winning people's minds. People will nod their head saying, yeah, I agree. But it's only when you win their heart, their passion, their motivation, that they will go that extra mile, but they will now share that dream with you and they'll follow you. You hear a lot of people talk about being honest. Let me emphasize that. Until you are transparent and honest, you can't achieve this. Leadership is not a popularity contest. Leadership is about transparency, honesty, and sharing that vision. If you want to be popular, perhaps you ought to think about modern politics. If you want to be a leader, you're going to make hard decisions. Now, let me give an example of that. When I took over at Life Biosciences about 2 years ago as CEO, we were a challenged company. Our biggest challenge was that we'd found capital early and relatively easy. That allowed the company's leadership at the time to start to try and do everything. Everything was attractive. And we ended up with 9 projects for a small biotech company that was going to be impossible. And in fact, the end was clear when I was asked to take over. It was not popular decisions. We had to cut our overhead by 60%. We had to cut our program from 9 down to 3. And we had to conserve as much cash and prove to the marketplace that we could actually do this with discipline. Fast forward 2 years later, we've had a successful Series C. We have more than 2 years of cash. We have 3 clear programs. And in the last 12 months, thanks to the great work of our scientists, we've had papers on the cover page of Nature, Science, Cell, etc. In a 12-month period, we've had almost half a dozen papers in the top journals in the world, and we're progressing now the pipeline, getting ready for our human studies. So very different. And that, to me, is the best example I can give you of the importance of focus, prioritization, leadership, hard, tough decisions. I didn't talk about raising capital. Capital is available for good ideas. Cash is always going to be available if you have good ideas. In fact, there's more capital chasing fewer and fewer good ideas. The key is, do you know how to identify that idea and convert it to a path to innovation? And that's going to be the key to your success. I've got a couple of minutes that I want to just point out to say, so where's the future look like here? I think those of you who are thinking about longevity as an area of innovation are in for an exciting ride. I took this challenge on at this stage in my career because I couldn't think of a bigger challenge to both take on that could change humanity across the world. Every single human being alive today is aging. Every single human being eventually is going to have to think about the potential of living with chronic disease. And we can do something about it. The last 5 to 10 years have seen tremendous evolution of the science, the convergence of biology, digital, and mathematical processes, and technology are now converging. We have computing capability we could not imagine a decade ago. We have the ability to precisely interrogate biological mechanisms and processes in ways we could not imagine, and that's just the start. As all of this evolves, the funding's there, governments are getting aligned, the regulators are starting to understand, and most importantly, country heads are starting to understand that this is a huge undertaking that is solvable. And because of that, we are getting now both government funding, industry funding, and now, as Victor mentioned as an example, my own organization, Evolution Foundation, is destined to be one of the largest nonprofit foundations investing in both research but also providing venture capital to startups to accelerate their ideas going from inventions to becoming innovations. And so if you think I'm excited about it, I'm just touching the surface. This is nothing I could have done at this point in my career that would excite me more than to help make a small difference in helping transform people's ideas by providing insight, counsel, and, where necessary, funding from our team to make this. And I actually am delighted in the work the National Academy of Medicine is leading in this, and to play a small part together with Victor in order to help bring this forward. So congratulations to those of you who are in this field. Hats off to you for taking on this challenge. And I can assure you, if nothing else, there is nothing more fulfilling and exciting that you can find. So I'll stop there, see if Victor has any questions or thoughts, and I'm happy to address them. Back to you, Victor.
Well, thank you, Mahmood. Really inspiring speech. You know, as I said in my introduction, you've done it all. And from academic to industry, from pharmaceutical to nutrition to life science, biosciences, looking at health span, and now a new foundation. Very exciting. So as you know, we have the attendance of 150 some innovators who won the Catalyst Award, and another whole bunch of people who are going to be winning the award today, as well as many younger people. I think what's on my mind and their mind is, boy, you've done it all, but we're just starting. We want to be an innovator. We want to make a difference like you did. We want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to be a successful academic. So at this very early stage of their career, what do you advise them to do? You know, it's like thinking about taking the steps forward. And then, as Yogi Berra said, when you come to a fork, what do I take? Can you give them some advice how you actually made that decision and got to where you are?
So this might surprise some people, and I've been fortunate. In my 40-year career, this year is 40 years, I've actually never applied for a job. And I say that because what's important every time I come to a fork is, first of all, too many young people are doing a job with their eye on the next job. And I always tell my mentees, focus on the job you have, give it everything you have, go at it with a passion, and there will be 5 options open up later on if you're truly successful in the job you're doing today. Don't worry about the next. That's the first thing. The second is, ask yourself, do I really have conviction on this? And do I really feel this is what I really ought to be doing? Or am I going home every day wondering about what I'd rather be doing? And if you're going home wondering about what I'd rather be doing, you're not giving it 150%. Your heart isn't in it. And the people you need to help you be successful will actually recognize that. And that's the key. And it comes back to what I was saying earlier. You need to win people's hearts. You're not going to do it if your own heart isn't in it. The third piece on this is surround yourself. People say this all the time, but my key to success has been surrounding myself with very smart people. And I gave a commencement speech a few years ago at University of Minnesota, at my alma mater. And I literally quoted this as a true statement. I've never come up with a good idea in my career, Victor. I've made a career by recognizing good ideas from other people. And if you can keep your mind open and have the humility to recognize when you hear a good idea, you won't have time to come up with good ideas. There'll be so many ideas around you that you can action. And that's what will make you successful.
Thank you, Mahmood. There's 154 good ideas right here from the Innovators Catalyst Awardees from this past year. And there'll be another 150 good ideas. So we all hope that you look at those ideas and help these young people and innovators to achieve what you've been able to achieve, both in their own projects as well as their own career. So thank you very much indeed. We really appreciate you taking time off to inspire us. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor, and I look forward to reviewing them with you, and I know you and I and the rest of the Academy team can make this a big success.
Thank you. Let me turn the program back to our organizer.